The stars shimmered beyond the viewing port as Ambassador Velrith gazed at the yellow sun ahead. His silver skin rippled with excitement, a sign of joy among his people. Today would mark the 48th first contact in Concordat history. Every single one had ended in friendship and peace. "We are approaching the third planet, Ambassador," the navigation officer announced. The signals originated from there. Velrith nodded, his long fingers dancing across the communication console. The message played once more in 10,000 languages, each one carefully crafted over centuries of diplomatic tradition. "Greetings, friends. We are the Galactic Concordat. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of sentient beings." The fleet surrounding his vessel gleamed in the sunlight. 12 ships, each one a masterpiece of art and engineering. Their hulls were decorated with symbols of peace from every member species. No weapons adorned these vessels. Why would they need weapons? The galaxy had known peace for 12,000 years. "Still no response, sir," the communications officer said, her antennae drooping slightly. "Patience," Velrith replied warmly. "They are likely overwhelmed. Imagine discovering you are not alone in the universe. Give them time." Far below on Earth, in a bunker buried 3 kilometers beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the alien fleet on her screens. Her jaw was tight, her dark eyes hard as steel. Around her, dozens of officers monitored every movement, every energy signature, every communication from the visitors above. "They are holding position at Mars orbit," her tactical officer reported. "No aggressive movements. No weapon signatures detected." "None that we can detect," Chen corrected sharply. "Remember the protocols. Hope for peace. Prepare for war." She had studied every scrap of data about these aliens since their probe had been discovered 18 months ago. The Concordat, they called themselves. 47 species living in harmony. It sounded beautiful. It sounded impossible. Dr. Marcus Webb entered the command center, his face flushed from running. "Admiral, we need to respond. They have been broadcasting for 6 hours. Our silence might be interpreted as hostility." "Our silence is strategic," General Kowalski growled from the corner. The old soldier's uniform was covered in medals from conflicts Webb had only read about. "We show nothing until we know everything." Chen raised her hand for silence. "Dr. Webb, have you finished the analysis?" Webb nodded, pulling up holographic displays. "Their language structure suggests a society that has not experienced conflict in generations. Maybe centuries. They have 17 words for harmony, but no direct translation for war. Their ships are built for comfort and communication, not combat." "That makes them either saints or fools," Kowalski muttered. "Or both," Chen added quietly. She had seen too much in her 40 years of service. The AI wars had taught humanity a terrible lesson. Never again would they be caught unprepared. Never again would they trust blindly. In orbit above Mars, Velrith received reports from his scouts. "Ambassador, we have detected primitive satellites around the planet. Radio transmissions suggest a fractured civilization, multiple governments, multiple languages. They appear to be at an early stage of unification." "Excellent," Velrith said. "We can help them. Send the assistance delegation to their largest population center. Show them our medical technology, our clean energy systems. Once they see what we offer, they will welcome us with open hearts." Sub-Commander Kale, a young officer from the warrior caste of his people, shifted uncomfortably. His species had joined the Concordat 3,000 years ago, but old instincts died hard. "Sir, should we not wait for their formal invitation?" "The protocols were written for species that had already achieved basic interstellar travel." Velrith interrupted gently. "These humans are still confined to their own star system. We must extend the first hand of friendship." Kyle said nothing more, but his secondary eyes continued scanning the sensor data. Something felt wrong. The humans had satellites that could detect their fleet from billions of kilometers away. They had probes throughout their star system. For a species that could not travel faster than light, they were remarkably advanced in some areas while primitive in others. It did not make sense. On Titan, Saturn's largest moon, hidden beneath kilometers of ice and rock, the UHSF Shadow Fleet waited in silence. 50 warships, each one a miracle of human engineering and paranoia. They had been built in secret over 30 years, constructed in the dark spaces between worlds where no telescope could find them. Captain Rodriguez sat in the command chair of the destroyer Vigilant, watching the countdown clock. 48 hours. That was how long the politicians had given diplomacy to work. After that, the fleet would reveal itself one way or another. "Captain, the alien assistance delegation is moving toward Earth," his sensor officer reported. "They will reach our outer defense grid in 20 minutes. Rodriguez felt his stomach tighten. The outer defense grid, automated platforms disguised as asteroids, each one armed with railguns capable of punching through a battleship's armor. If the aliens crossed that line without clearance, the platforms would fire automatically. He opened a secure channel to Earth. "Command, the aliens are approaching the red line. Request permission to broadcast warning." Chen's voice came back after a long pause. "Negative, Vigilant. Maintain silence. Let the grid handle it. Sir, they do not know the grid is there. This could be a massacre. Or a test." Kowalski's voice cut in. "If they survive our automated defenses, we will know they are more dangerous than they appear." Webb's voice joined the channel, desperate. "Admiral, please. This is insane. They are coming to help us and we are going to shoot them." "They are entering our territory without permission," Chen replied, her voice cold as ice. "In every human culture, that is an act of war." Velrith's assistance delegation crossed the invisible line. 3 small vessels, their hulls painted with children's artwork from Concordat schools. Inside, diplomats prepared gifts and welcome packages. The automated platforms activated. Magnetic accelerators hummed to life. Targeting solutions locked on. And then the universe changed forever. The first railgun round crossed the distance in 3 seconds. It struck the lead delegation vessel amidships, punching through the decorative hull like paper. Atmosphere vented into space as the ship spun wildly. Emergency systems screaming alerts in languages no human had ever heard. Velrith stared at his displays in complete incomprehension. "What happened? Did we hit something? A micrometeorite?" "Negative, Ambassador," the sensor officer replied, her voice shaking. "We were struck by a kinetic projectile. Artificial origin. Deliberate targeting." The words made no sense. Velrith's mind rejected them like a body rejects poison. "That is impossible. We broadcast peaceful intentions. We displayed all proper diplomatic symbols. No civilized species would." The second round hit the trailing vessel. This time it struck the power core. The explosion was brief and bright, a small sun blooming between Earth and Mars. 63 souls vanished in an instant. "Evasive maneuvers," Kyle shouted, overriding the ambassador's authority. His warrior instincts, dormant for 30 centuries, erupted like a volcano. "All ships scatter. Return to Mars orbit immediately." The remaining delegation ship limped back toward the fleet, trailing debris and frozen atmosphere. Velrith sat in his command chair, utterly paralyzed. In 12,000 years of recorded Concordat history, no member species had ever fired upon a first contact delegation. The very concept was beyond his understanding. In the Rocky Mountain bunker, silence filled the command center. Every officer stared at the screen showing the burning wreckage and the fleeing alien ships. Webb's face had gone pale, his hands trembling. "You murdered them," he whispered. "They came in peace and you murdered them." "They entered our defensive perimeter without authorization," Kowalski replied, but even his voice lacked its usual certainty. "The automated systems performed as designed." Chen stood motionless, her expression unreadable. Inside, her mind raced through scenarios and consequences. They had just committed an act that could doom humanity to eternal isolation or worse. But they had also sent a clear message. Earth would not be approached without permission. "Open a channel," she ordered. "All frequencies. Let me speak to them." Webb nearly leaped at the communications console. His fingers flew across the controls, assembling a message packet, using the linguistic data they had gathered from the aliens' broadcasts. It took him 7 minutes to craft a message he believed would be understood. When it transmitted, every Concordat vessel received the same simple statement in their primary language. "This is Earth. You entered our space without permission." This was a warning. "Request formal diplomatic protocols before further approach. We do not wish more death." Velrith read the message 17 times. Each time the words seemed more alien than before. Warning. Death. Permission to enter space. These concepts existed in Concordat languages only in historical archives, relics from the brutal ages before the unification. "They think we are invading them," Sub-Commander Kale said quietly. "They see our peaceful delegation as an attack force." "How?" Velrith asked. "Our intentions were clear. Our symbols are universal. Peace is peace in any language. Not in theirs, Kale replied, studying the human message structure. Ambassador, their language has 43 distinct words for types of warfare. They have entire grammatical structures dedicated to describing conflict, strategy, and violence. This is not a species that has forgotten war. They live with it constantly. The implications crashed over Velrith like a tidal wave. Everything the Concordat knew about civilized development suggested that species grew past violence as they matured. War was a childhood disease, something societies outgrew when they reached for the stars. But these humans had reached for the stars while carrying their weapons with them. "We need to withdraw," one of the ship captains said. "Send for the defense fleet. Let specialists handle this situation." "The defense fleet?" another captain asked. "What would they even do? The ceremonial guard has not responded to an actual threat in 4,000 years. Velrith made his decision. "Send the message. Request all available Concordat forces to rendezvous at the human system. And send word to the High Council. Tell them we have encountered something unprecedented, a species that achieved spaceflight without achieving peace." Over the next 48 hours, the situation deteriorated in slow motion. The Concordat reinforcements arrived, 20 additional vessels, each one larger than the first contact fleet, but equally unprepared for actual combat. Their weapons were crowd control devices designed to break up riots. Their shields were meant to protect against solar radiation, not kinetic weapons. The human response was measured but firm. They established a clear boundary at Jupiter's orbit. Any vessel crossing that line without explicit permission would be engaged. They offered to send ambassadors to a neutral location for negotiations. They provided detailed safety protocols and communication guidelines. To the Concordat, it felt like being welcomed to a friend's home at gunpoint. Dr. Webb worked 20-hour days, crafting messages and trying to bridge the impossible gap between two civilizations with utterly different worldviews. He arranged for a meeting aboard a small diplomatic station humanity had rapidly constructed at Jupiter's largest moon. "They are agreeing to meet," Webb told Admiral Chen. "Ambassador Velrith himself will attend with a small delegation. They request assurance of safe passage." "They will have it," Chen replied. "Prepare the Shadow Fleet for decloaking. If we are going to negotiate, we negotiate from strength." "Admiral, is that wise?" Webb asked carefully. "Showing them our full military capability might terrify them." "Doctor, they need to be terrified," Chen said flatly. "They need to understand exactly what they are dealing with. Otherwise, they might decide we are a problem to be solved rather than a neighbor to be respected." General Kowalski agreed. "The moment they realize they outnumber us 1,000 to 1, they will consider containment or elimination. We show them the gun before they decide to grab it." Webb wanted to argue, but he could not find the words, because deep down he knew they were right. Humanity had learned its lessons in blood and fire. Peace without power was just surrender waiting to happen. On the Concordat flagship, Velrith prepared for the meeting with a heavy heart. His crew had assembled all available data on human civilization. What they found disturbed them deeply. These humans had fought wars that killed millions. They had developed weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They had created artificial intelligences and then fought brutal wars against them. And now they waited in the darkness of space, watching the Concordat with eyes that had seen horrors no civilized being should ever witness. "Ambassador," Kyle said softly, "I have been analyzing their defensive positions. The weapons that destroyed our vessels were primitive, compared to what they likely possess. I believe they held back. They could have destroyed the entire delegation instantly, but chose not to." Velrith considered this. "You think they showed restraint?" "I think they showed us exactly enough to make us cautious, but not enough to make us flee," Kale replied. "That suggests a sophisticated understanding of psychological warfare. These humans are not savages, Ambassador. They are something far more dangerous. They are warriors who have learned to think like diplomats." As both sides prepared for their first meeting, neither truly understood what was about to unfold. The Concordat expected to civilize another primitive species. Humanity expected to defend itself against another existential threat. What neither expected was that this first contact would change the entire galaxy forever. The diplomatic station hung in space like a fragile promise. It was a simple structure, hastily built but functional. Inside, the meeting room had been carefully designed. Half was arranged according to concordant preferences with soft lighting and organic curves. The other half was stark and efficient in human military style. Admiral Chen arrived first, flanked by 2 Marines in dress uniforms and Dr. Webb carrying data tablets. She wore her full dress uniform with every medal earned. She wanted Velrith to see exactly who he was dealing with. When the concordant delegation entered, Chen studied them carefully. Velrith moved with liquid grace, his silver skin catching the light. His large eyes held wisdom and confusion in equal measure. Behind him, Sub-Commander Kale walked with different energy, his posture more alert, more aware. "Ambassador Velrith," Chen said, extending her hand in the human gesture of greeting. "Welcome. I apologize for the circumstances of our first meeting." Velrith studied her hand for a moment before carefully mimicking the gesture. His skin felt cool and smooth. "Admiral Chen, I accept your apology, though I confess I do not fully understand what happened. Your automated systems destroyed our delegation without warning. You entered our defensive perimeter without authorization," Chen replied simply. "That is considered an act of aggression by every human military doctrine. But we broadcast peaceful intentions," Velrith said, genuine bewilderment in his voice. "We displayed every symbol of diplomatic contact developed over 12 millennia. How could our approach be seen as hostile?" Dr. Webb stepped forward. "Ambassador, may I explain? In human history, many invasions began with proclamations of peace. Many conquests started with gifts and smiles. We have learned that intentions must be verified, not simply believed." Kale spoke for the first time, his voice harder than Velrith's. "You trust no one." "We trust carefully," Chen corrected. "There is a difference. We hope for peace but prepare for war. It is the only way humanity has survived this long." Velrith felt the weight of those words. "Survived? Admiral, what has your species survived that makes you so cautious?" Chen gestured to Webb, who activated a holographic display. Images filled the space between the 2 delegations. Cities in ruins, battlefields stretching to horizons, nuclear fire blooming over oceans, machines rising against their creators. The horrors of human history played out in terrible detail. "We survived ourselves," Chen said quietly. "We are our own worst enemy, Ambassador. We have fought wars over resources, ideology, religion, territory, and pride. We have nearly destroyed ourselves 17 times in recorded history. We have built weapons that could sterilize our entire planet and come within minutes of using them." Velrith watched in mounting horror. The Concordant had carefully sanitized such images from their historical archives thousands of years ago. To see such violence displayed so casually was deeply disturbing. "Why would you show me this?" Velrith asked. "Are you trying to frighten me?" "I am trying to make you understand us," Chen replied. "You came here expecting to find another peaceful species ready to join your Concordat. Instead, you found us. We are not peaceful by nature, Ambassador. We are peaceful by choice, and that choice requires constant vigilance." Before Velrith could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Chen's communicator erupted with urgent voices. She listened for a moment, her expression darkening. "General Kowalski has launched an unauthorized strike against your fleet," she said. "3 of your outer vessels have been destroyed." The words hung in the air like poison. Velrith's skin went pale, cycling through colors that expressed shock and grief. Kale's hand moved instinctively toward where a weapon would have been, though he carried none. "Why?" Velrith asked, his voice breaking. "We are talking. We are attempting peace. Why would your people attack now?" Chen's jaw clenched. "Because some of my people believe the only way to ensure our survival is to strike first. To show strength before you can organize a threat against us." She turned to her Marines. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command, now." But it was too late for Earth Command to matter. Because at that moment, Velrith made a decision born of desperation and fear. He sent a distress signal to every Concordat vessel within range. Within hours, reinforcements would arrive. Hundreds of ships responding to the first military attack the Concordat had experienced in 12,000 years. Chen saw the transmission go out. She saw the fear in Velrith's eyes turn to something else. Determination. The ambassador had just called for help, and help would come in overwhelming numbers. "You have made a mistake, Ambassador," Chen said softly. "My people are dying," Velrith replied. "What choice did I have?" Admiral Chen straightened, her hand moving to her communicator. She spoke a single code phrase, 8 syllables that would change everything. Throughout the Sol system, response protocols activated, stealth fields deactivated, power cores surged to full capacity. Weapon systems came online. The Shadow Fleet decloaked. 50 warships materialized from seemingly empty space. They had been there all along, hidden by technology the Concordat did not know was possible. Destroyers and cruisers and carriers positioned throughout the inner system, and at the center, directly behind Velrith's flagship, the crown jewel of human military engineering emerged from darkness. The UHSF Indomitable was 2 kilometers of armored death. Its hull was scarred from the AI wars, each mark a story of survival and victory. Plasma cannons ran along its spine like vertebrae. Point defense systems covered every surface, and at its heart, an experimental reactor capable of powering weapons the Concordat could not even imagine. On the Concordat flagship, alarms screamed as sensors suddenly registered 50 massive weapons platforms appearing from nowhere. The tactical officer's voice was pure panic. "Sir, we are surrounded. Multiple contacts, all armed, all targeting our ships. They are everywhere." "How are they everywhere?" Kale studied the displays with growing horror and grudging admiration. "They have been watching us the entire time. Every move we made, every position we took, they were there in the shadows. We were never in control of this situation." More Concordat ships continued arriving in response to Velrith's distress call. 20 became 40, then 60, then 80 vessels. They jumped into the system ready to rescue their ambassador, only to find themselves in a carefully prepared kill zone. Human destroyer captains waited with fingers hovering over firing triggers. Targeting solutions were locked on every Concordat vessel. One order from Admiral Chen and the battle would be over in minutes. The Concordat ships were larger and more numerous, but they were built for exploration and diplomacy. The human ships were built for one purpose: to destroy anything that threatened Earth. Chen opened a channel that would broadcast to every ship in the system, human and Concordat alike. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of absolute authority. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Humanity Space Fleet. All vessels are to hold position and hold fire. Ambassador Velrith, I am transmitting coordinates for your flagship. My ship will escort you there now." "Why?" Velrith asked, still reeling from the sudden appearance of the human fleet. "Because we need to talk," Chen replied. "And I want you to understand something very important. We could have destroyed your entire fleet before you even knew we were here. Every ship you have brought into this system is already dead if we choose to kill them. But we have not fired. We have not attacked. We have simply shown you what you were facing all along." She paused, letting that sink in. "You came here believing first contact meant peace. You were wrong. First contact means understanding. And you need to understand exactly who and what we are before this situation spirals beyond control. Will you come aboard my ship, Ambassador? Or will you force us to prove what our weapons can do?" Velrith looked at Kale, at his crew, at the holographic display showing 80 Concordat vessels surrounded by 50 human warships. The mathematics were deceptive. Numbers meant nothing when one side had weapons designed for war and the other had tools meant for peace. "I will come," Velrith said quietly. "But I want assurances that my crew will be safe." "You have my word," Chen replied. "In human culture, that means something. You are about to learn why." As Velrith's shuttle approached the massive human dreadnought, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The Concordat had spent 12,000 years believing the universe was a peaceful place. In a single day, that belief had been shattered by a species that understood a truth the Concordat had forgotten. Peace was not the natural state of the universe. Peace was something that had to be fought for, protected, and sometimes, ironically, achieved through the threat of overwhelming violence. The human warship grew larger in his viewport, dark and threatening and utterly unstoppable, and Velrith realized with crystal clarity that nothing would ever be the same again. The interior of the Indomitable was nothing like Velrith expected. Concordat vessels were built with comfort in mind, filled with art and natural materials. The human warship was stark and efficient. Every surface served a purpose. Every corridor was wide enough to move troops quickly. Every junction had defensive positions built into the walls. This was not a ship. It was a fortress that happened to fly through space. Admiral Chen met Velrith in a conference room deep in the ship's armored core. The room was simple: a large table, comfortable chairs, and wall displays showing tactical information. Dr. Webb was already present, along with several other humans Velrith did not recognize. "Please, sit," Chen said, gesturing to the chairs. "We have much to discuss." Velrith sat, Kale taking position beside him. The sub-commander's eyes never stopped moving, cataloging exits and potential threats, old instincts from a warrior race that had supposedly forgotten how to fight. "You have made your point, Admiral," Velrith said. "You have superior technology and tactical position. What do you want from us? Surrender? Tribute?" Chen looked genuinely surprised. "Neither. I want you to understand us. I want you to understand why we responded the way we did, and I need you to help me prevent this situation from becoming a war neither of our people can afford." She activated the wall displays. Images appeared, but these were different from the historical horrors shown earlier. These were recent events, detailed analysis of the Concordate itself. "We have been watching you for 3 years," Chen said. "Ever since we detected your first probe. We have studied your communications, your history, your culture. We know about the Concordate's 12,000 years of peace. We know about your 47 member species. We know everything you broadcast openly to the galaxy." Webb stepped forward. "What we could not understand was how you maintained that peace. 47 species with different needs, different biology, different psychology, yet no wars, no major conflicts, no military forces. It seemed impossible." "It is not impossible," Velrith said. "It is civilization. It is what species achieve when they grow beyond primitive violence." "That is what we thought at first," Chen replied. "But then our analyst found something interesting. Or rather, they found the absence of something interesting." The display changed, showing historical archives and data patterns. Webb explained. "The Concordate's recorded history begins 12,000 years ago with something called the Unification. Before that, your records are sparse and contradictory. It is as if your entire civilization simply began at that point, fully formed and peaceful. The Unification was when we came together," Velrith said, "when we agreed to live as one Concordate." "Who did you unify against?" Kale asked suddenly. His voice was quiet but sharp. The question hung in the air. Velrith turned to his sub-commander. "What do you mean?" "I mean that in my species' history before we joined the Concordate we have legends," Kale said. "Stories of the old wars before the peace. But those stories have been classified for millennia. I had to access restricted archives to find them. Why would peaceful histories be restricted?" Chen nodded approvingly at Kale. "Your sub-commander asks the right questions. We did the same thing, Ambassador. We hacked your restricted archives." Velrith's skin flushed with anger. "You violated our most sacred databases?" "We violated your propaganda," Chen corrected. "And what we found was the truth you have been hiding from yourselves for 12,000 years. The display changed again. This time it showed decoded files, ancient records that had been buried and encrypted, images of war, species fighting against species, and at the center of it all, a coordinated campaign of extermination. The Unification was not a peaceful coming together," Webb said softly. "It was a purge. The founding species of the Concordat identified every aggressive race in known space and systematically destroyed them. They killed billions, sterilized entire worlds, erased cultures from existence, and when it was done, they buried the evidence and told themselves they had achieved peace." Velrith stared at the images, his mind refusing to accept what he was seeing. "No, this is false. We are not capable of such things, and you were," Chen said. 12,000 years ago, you were every bit as violent as we are. The difference is that you chose to forget. You edited your own history, removed the capacity for violence from your languages, taught your children that war was something that only happened to primitive species. You created a lie and lived in it for so long that it became your truth." Kale was reading the files with wide eyes. His hands trembled slightly. "The warrior castes. That is why we exist, is it not? We are the descendants of the purge fleets, the ones who did the killing so others could live in peace." "And then you were slowly bred out of existence," Webb added. "Reduced to ceremonial roles, your histories classified, your instincts suppressed. The Concordate wanted to forget what it took to create their peace." Velrith felt his entire worldview collapsing. Everything he had believed, everything he had devoted his life to was built on a foundation of buried genocide. "If this is true, then we are monsters." "No," Chen said firmly. "You were survivors. You did what you thought necessary to ensure peace. I am not here to judge you for choices made 12 millennia ago. I am here to make you understand that humanity is facing the same choice right now." She stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. "When we saw your fleet approaching Earth, we had to decide. Do we trust you or do we prepare to fight? Do we welcome you with open arms and hope for the best? Or do we show you our weapons and hope you decide we are not worth attacking? We would never attack," Velrith said. You say that now, standing in my warship surrounded by my fleet, Chen replied. But what happens when you leave? What happens when the Concordat Council learns about us? When they realize there is a species out here that remembers how to fight, that builds weapons that could threaten the peace you have maintained for 12,000 years? Kale understood immediately. You think they will try to eliminate us? I think they will see you as a disease that needs to be cured, Chen said. And that cure might involve quarantine, containment, or if necessary, eradication. Not because the Concordat is evil, but because they are so committed to peace that they cannot tolerate the existence of a warrior species. Dr. Webb interjected, but there is another option, one that benefits both our peoples. What option? Velrith asked. Alliance, Webb said. Humanity becomes a member of the Concordat, but with a specific role. We become your defenders, your military arm, the species that guards the peace while you maintain it. You want us to legitimize your violence, Velrith said. We want to offer our violence in service of something greater than ourselves, Chen corrected. Ambassador, do you know why the Concordat has never been invaded? Why no outside force has ever threatened your borders? Velrith had never considered the question. Because we pose no threat. Because we are peaceful. Because you are weak, Kyle said bluntly, and weaknesses attract predators. We have been safe because we are large and because we are remote, but that cannot last forever. As if summoned by those words, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. A communications officer rushed into the room. Admiral, we have incoming contacts. Unknown vessels entering the system outer edge. 36 confirmed, more arriving. They are not Concordat design. Chen's expression hardened. Show me. The display changed to show long-range sensor data. The new vessels were unlike anything either human or Concordat had seen before. They moved with predatory grace, their hulls covered in what looked like organic armor. And they were heading straight for the gathered fleets with clear hostile intent. What are those? Velrith asked. Kyle studied the sensor readings, his face going pale. Those are Krev. They are a hive mind species from beyond Concordat space. We have had minor border incidents with them for decades, but they have never been this aggressive. They are attacking because they think you are weak, Chen said. They have been watching your borders, probing your defenses. And now they see a huge fleet gathered in one place and they see an opportunity. One of Chen's tactical officers added, Admiral, the Krev vessels are powering weapons. They will be in firing range in 12 minutes. Chen looked at Velrith. Ambassador, right now you have a choice. You can order your fleet to flee, abandon the Sol system, and hope the Krev do not follow you home. Or you can let humanity show you what we are truly capable of. Let us prove that our darkness can serve the light. Velrith looked at the approaching threat, then at the human admiral who had so thoroughly outmaneuvered him. He thought about the lies his civilization had been built on, and the truth humanity had never forgotten. Show me, he said quietly. Show me what peace built on strength looks like. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator about to defend her territory. All ships, battle stations. This is not a drill. We have incoming hostiles. Authorization code Olympus 7. Shadow Fleet, you are weapons free. Show them why humanity survived. The Indomitable's engines surged to full power. Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to their positions. Weapon systems came online with a hum that Velrith could feel through the deck plates. And outside, the human fleet began to move with coordinated precision that spoke of endless practice and hard-won experience. Velrith was about to witness something the galaxy had not seen in 12,000 years. Humanity at war. The Krev fleet moved like a swarm of insects, their ships weaving and crossing in patterns that seemed chaotic, but held terrible purpose. 60 vessels now, then 70, more arriving every minute. Their hulls pulsed with bioluminescence, organic technology that made them look more alive than constructed. In the Indomitable's command center, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with cold calculation. The Krev outnumbered her fleet and were still growing stronger. But numbers were not everything. Tactical assessment, she ordered. Her weapons officer responded immediately. Enemy vessels appear to be biological hybrids. Hull composition suggests regenerative capabilities. Weapons are plasma-based medium range. They are coordinating through some kind of hive network. Take out enough nodes and the rest might lose cohesion. Identify the nodes, Chen commanded. Prepare firing solutions. All ships, formation Delta 7. Concordat fleet is to maintain position behind our line. Velrith watched from the observation deck, Kale beside him. The human efficiency was almost frightening. Every crew member knew their role. Every system activated in perfect sequence. This was not a military learning to fight. This was a military that had never stopped fighting. They are going to attack 70 ships with 50, Velrith said quietly. They are going to attack 70 ships with a plan, Kale corrected. Watch their positioning. The human fleet was not forming a traditional battle line. Instead, they created a curved formation with the Indomitable at the center. Destroyers and cruisers spread out in a crescent, while smaller attack craft took positions above and below the main force. It looked like they were creating a trap. The Krev rushed forward, their ships accelerating to attack speed. They moved with the confidence of predators that had never encountered real resistance. The Concordate's border patrols had always fled or surrendered. They expected the same now. Enemy entering range in 30 seconds, the weapons officer announced. Chen's voice remained calm. Wait for it. Let them commit. Velrith could not understand the delay. The humans had the range advantage, why wait? 20 seconds. The Krev fleet tightened formation, preparing for the final approach. More ships continued arriving behind them, swelling their numbers to 80, then 90. 10 seconds. All batteries charged and ready. Chen leaned forward slightly in her command chair. Target the lead vessels. Pattern recognition suggests those are the coordination nodes. On my mark, all ships will fire in sequence, not simultaneously. I want a rhythm, not a barrage. 5 seconds. Mark. The Indomitable fired first. Its main plasma cannons released bolts of superheated matter that crossed the distance in heartbeats. They struck 3 Krev vessels simultaneously, and the results were catastrophic. The organic hulls could not regenerate fast enough. They burst apart in explosions of blue-green fire. Before the Krev could react, the human destroyers fired. Then the cruisers, then the attack craft, but not all at once. They fired in a wave, each ship releasing its weapons a fraction of a second after the last. The effect was like a rolling thunder, constant and overwhelming. The Krev coordination broke. Without their node ships, the hive mind fractured. Individual vessels began making decisions, and those decisions were panicked and uncoordinated. They scattered, trying to reform, but the human ships were already moving. All craft advance, Chen ordered. Hit them while they are confused. Target engines and weapon systems. Disable. Do not destroy unless necessary. The human fleet surged forward, moving with precision that seemed impossible for individual ships. But they were not individual. They were coordinated through advanced tactical networks, each ship sharing data in real time, anticipating each other's moves. Kale watched in amazement. They fight like a hive mind, but they are all individuals. How? Practice, Chen said from the command center, though Kale could not hear her. Endless, brutal practice against enemies that wanted to exterminate us. We learned to fight together or die alone. The battle became a deadly dance. Human ships would fire, move, fire again from a new position. The Krev tried to swarm individual vessels, but the humans had anticipated that. Point defense systems created walls of fire that shredded attack craft. Electronic warfare systems disrupted Krev communications. Tactical missiles struck with pinpoint accuracy, disabling ships without destroying them. But the Krev were numerous and desperate. They adapted quickly, focusing their attacks on isolated human ships. One destroyer took multiple hits, its shields failing. Atmosphere vented from a breach in the hull. Destroyer Vigilant is damaged, the tactical officer reported. They are withdrawing to secondary positions, Chen nodded. Cruiser Shanghai, provide cover. Medical frigates stand by for emergency rescue. The battle raged for 17 minutes. 17 minutes that felt like hours to those involved. The Krev lost 23 vessels completely destroyed, and another 32 disabled. The human fleet suffered damage to 6 ships, with Vigilant taking the worst of it. But not a single human vessel was destroyed. Finally, the Krev broke. The remaining ships jumped away, fleeing into deep space, their coordinated assault shattered by an enemy they had not expected to encounter. The silence after they left was profound. In the Indomitable's command center, crew members slumped in their stations, exhausted. Chen sat motionless, her eyes still scanning displays for threats. Status report. All ships, one by one, captains reported in. Damage, casualties, ammunition expended. The Butcher's bill for 17 minutes of violence. 14 humans dead, 43 wounded. Ships could be repaired. Those lives could not be replaced. Destroyer Vigilant reports heavy casualties, the communications officer said quietly. Captain Rodriguez is requesting permission to recover the dead. Granted, Chen said. All ships maintain alert status. They might come back. She stood slowly, feeling every one of her years. Someone get Ambassador Velrith. He needs to see this. Velrith arrived in the command center with Kale, both of them moving in a daze. They had watched the entire battle, seen humans fight with a combination of precision and aggression that should not have been possible. The Concordat had no frame of reference for such controlled violence. You won, Velrith said simply. We survived. Chen corrected. Winning would have meant not fighting at all. But yes, we drove them off. For now. Those ships you destroyed, Velrith continued. The Krev inside them, dead, Chen said flatly. War is not clean, Ambassador. We kill or we die. Sometimes we do both. Dr. Webb approached, his face drawn. Admiral, the medical teams are reporting from Vigilant. Captain Rodriguez did not make it. He stayed at his post until the end. Chen closed her eyes briefly. Add him to the list. Make sure his family knows he died protecting Earth. Velrith felt something break inside him. These humans had just fought a desperate battle, lost people they knew, and were already preparing for the next threat. They carried on because stopping meant dying, and they had been doing this for their entire history. Why did you save us? Velrith asked. You could have let the Krev attack the Concordat fleet. Let us learn the lesson ourselves. Because that is what soldiers do, Chen replied. We protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if those people do not fully understand what that protection costs. Kyle spoke up, his voice rough with emotion. The Concordat needs to see this, all of it. They need to understand what is out here, waiting beyond our borders. We have been safe because we were lucky, not because we were prepared. Can you convince them? Chen asked. I do not know, Kale admitted. 12,000 years of peace is a hard habit to break. But I will try. Velrith made a decision. It was perhaps the hardest decision of his life. But he knew it was necessary. Admiral Chen, on behalf of the Concordat, I would like to formally request that humanity consider joining our alliance. Not as another peaceful species, but as something new. As our protectors. Our warriors. Our shield against the darkness we have been pretending does not exist. Chen studied him carefully. You understand what that means? We will not change who we are. We will build weapons and train for war. We will maintain fleets and prepare for battles. Your people will have to look at us and remember everything they have tried to forget. I know, Velrith said, but I also know that without you, the Concordat will eventually fall. The Krev will return or something worse will find us. We have been living in a dream, Admiral. You have shown me that it is time to wake up. There will be conditions, Chen said. We will need autonomy in military matters. We will need access to resources and technology, and we will need the Concordat to acknowledge the truth of their own history. No more lies about peaceful unification. I will take your terms to the High Council, Velrith agreed. Dr. Webb stepped forward with a data tablet. I have been working on a proposal. We call it the Terran Shield Protocol. Humanity integrates into the Concordat as a military specialist species. We handle defense, you handle everything else. It is a partnership based on mutual respect and honest understanding of our differences. Kale took the tablet, reading quickly. This could work. It gives both sides what they need while protecting both sides from their worst impulses. Over the next hours, the details were negotiated. Humanity would join the Concordat as the first and only military member species. Human ships would be stationed throughout Concordat space, protecting borders and responding to threats. In exchange, humanity would gain access to Concordat technology, trade networks, and diplomatic support. More importantly, the Concordat would begin teaching the truth of their history. The peaceful civilization built on ancient violence would acknowledge its past and embrace the idea that peace required protection. As Velrith prepared to return to his fleet, he paused at the airlock. Admiral, may I ask you something personal? Of course, Chen replied. Do you enjoy war? Do you take pleasure in violence? Chen thought for a long moment. No, Ambassador, I hate it. Every battle I fight, I think about the people who will not go home. Every ship I send into danger, I wonder if I could have found another way. But I do it anyway because someone has to. Because the alternative is worse. She looked out at the stars through the viewport. Humanity did not choose to be warriors, Ambassador. We were forced to become warriors or die. And now that we have survived, we use what we learned to protect others. That is the burden we carry. And now, if you accept our help, it becomes a burden we share. Velrith extended his hand in the human gesture of friendship. Chen took it. "Welcome to the Concordat, Admiral," Velrith said. "May your weapons never need to fire again." "May we be so lucky," Chen replied. "But I would not bet on it." 6 months later, the treaty was ratified. Human warships began deploying throughout Concordat space, their dark hulls a stark reminder of the realities the galaxy had forgotten. The other species watched with a mixture of fear and gratitude, and when the Krev returned a year later with a full invasion force, they found not the easy prey they expected, but a unified defense that crushed their attack in a single day. Humanity had brought war back to the galaxy, but in doing so they had ensured that the peace the Concordat cherished could endure. The humans who had been shaped by violence became the guardians who prevented it, and the galaxy, for all its discomfort with the truth, was safer for their presence. They had believed first contact meant peace. They were right, but only because humanity understood war.